It's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Do please like and subscribe. Yeah, that's very helpful. It really helps, you know. Come on, help. Yeah, anyway. Oh, and your comments. I do like your comments. Insults, comments, requests, you name it. Put them down there. I'll do my best. I always reply, you know. Anyway, I'm going to talk today about a question that was asked about Tommy Robinson being placed on ordinary location in a wing that is populated by members of a certain ethnic and religious group. And it is believed by people who are close to Tommy Robinson, and indeed by the man himself, that he is going to be at danger if he's placed in this particular location inside HMP Woodhill. Yeah, well, anyway, of course, these things happen. I remember back at the Scrubs, they put Ian Brady, the Moors murderer, on ordinary location on D-Wing at the Scrubs, which is the long-term unit for the long-term prisoners, the lifers and what have you. And he didn't last more than a couple of days before a few of the very concerned inmates who didn't want a child murdering nonce on the landings followed him into the recess and gave him a boiling water bath. He was quite badly burnt with that, but he seemed to survive all right. I mean, he lasted a long time, didn't he? But the idea, people have suggested this idea that Tommy Robinson would be deliberately put into that situation. No, the staff wouldn't do that. They might do it to somebody like Ian Brady, but they certainly wouldn't do it to the likes of Tommy Robinson, because Tommy Robinson, despite the fact that he is somewhat extreme in his comments, and he certainly is, you know, no matter what people say, it's rather outrageous some of the stuff he comes in. He may very well be true, but you've got to know that the worst libel is the truth. You know, when you start speaking truth to power, then you can expect the power to exercise its authority. And unfortunately for Mr. Tommy Robinson, that is exactly what has happened. I also believe that he's facing further charges under the Terrorist Offences Act. So, and as far as I can see, he hasn't done anything that would justify that. But then again, who am I to say? I'm not the director of the Crown Prosecution Service, which was a role previously held by our esteemed Prime Minister, who seems to me to be a very strange character, you know. He labels himself as the top lawyer, the former top lawyer in the country. That's extremely far from the truth, because as people who are professional lawyers will tell you, that the Crown Prosecution Service is the last resort. It's where you go when you're not employed by the big companies and the big legal firms. The last resort. So, and while he was in there, he let slip by approximately 50 complaints, I believe there were, 50 statements proposing the arrest of Jimmy Savile. And if I'd been the director of the Crown Prosecution Service, and a very high-profile individual's case file came before me, I'd look very carefully at it, and it would need to be really convincing, because obviously you're putting a lot on the line. You know, the reputation of the Crown Prosecution Service on the line. So I'd look very carefully at one. But if I got, say, 3 or 4 very similar allegations about the same high-profile individual, all telling pretty much the same story about sexual abuse and vile practices, then I would have to say, well, this isn't just from different police forces, by the way. Oh, they didn't know, you see. Each police force, say, the Yorkshire Police didn't know that their complaint was going in, and the Lancashire Police Force, they didn't know that the Yorkshire Police Force's complaints and observations about Savile were going in. But the Crown Prosecution Service, under Sir Keir Starmer, they did know. He knew. Now, I have absolutely no evidence that Sir Keir Starmer is a Freemason. He may very well be, but Jimmy Savile was a 33rd degree member of the Masonic Brotherhood, and as such pulled in a great deal of favours. King Charles is one of the leading Masonics, Freemasons in the country, as was his uncle, Lord Mountbatten, and indeed his father, Prince Philip. So it's a strange setup that they've got there, and it protects people. I have seen it protect Freemasons. I mean, one trick that the Freemasons will pull is if they're arrested, they contact their contacts in the Masonic Brotherhood who are in positions of authority, and some mistake will be made in the charging procedures. I saw one where it was alleged that this particular member of the Freemasonic Brotherhood had stolen certain items belonging to the government from Strangeways Prison, by the way, and he did so on a certain date. Now, there wasn't any doubt that he was in possession of these articles because they were recovered from his home. He had, without any doubt, misappropriated them. But the charge said that he did it on a certain date, and that particular Freemason had absolute proof that he wasn't in the country on that date. He had tickets and evidence, and that he was in actual fact out of the country on holiday in a foreign land. So when they got to court, and he did go to court, he went to Crown Court, pleaded not guilty, and when the charge was read out, they produced the evidence that he was not in the country on that particular date, and the case was dismissed. There wasn't any doubt that he had misappropriated the property. He had. But he couldn't have done it on the day that he was charged with doing it, and therefore the case failed, and that was all prepared, in my opinion, by the Freemasons that were working on behalf of their colleague. Now, what's that got to do with Tommy Robinson? I don't believe that he's a Freemason, but he's up against the Freemasons. But the Freemasons are not going to throw him to the lions. I don't believe it. I believe that he will receive reasonably correct protection within the prisons, because they will know absolutely that if they put him onto the wing where the majority of inmates are members of a certain ethnic, radicalized religious group, that he is in extreme danger. So they're not going to do that. In my opinion, they won't do it. I think he's going to be perfectly safe in prison. I think he's going to get some much more prison sentence for, denying the police access to his mobile phone. The argument that he was working as a journalist at the time may carry some power behind it, but that remains to be seen. In the meantime, he's in HMP Woodhill. Tommy Robinson. He's going to need a bit of luck there, that lad. I believe he is, yeah. Right, now it's time for me to actually strike the dinger. Are you panicking now? Have you grabbed your goat? Are you running for the hills? I should imagine so, because here we have it. Yep, it's one of them crazy things, isn't it? The song dinger strikes fear into the hearts of the strongest of men. This is a song I'm going to sing to you now, and I am going to do my best. This is by Willie Nelson. It's Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. And by the time I've finished it, I expect one or two of you will be crying as well. In desperation. Please stop, John. Yeah. In the twilight glow I see them, blue eyes crying in the rain. When we kissed goodbye and parted, I knew we'd never meet again. Love is like a dying ember, and only memories remain. And through the ages I'll remember blue eyes crying in the rain. Someday when we meet up yonder, we'll stroll hand in hand again in a land that knows no parting, blue eyes crying in the rain. Now my hair has turned to silver, all my life I've loved in vain, but I can see her star in heaven, blue eyes crying in the rain. Yep, and I don't blame it for crying after that. It was pretty bad, wasn't it? Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton.